Her political career began in 1976 as the SWAPO deputy in Zambia. In 1978, she assumed the role of SWAPO chief representative in East Africa. 1990 marked her entry into the National Assembly. From 2000 to 2005, she served as the Minister of Women's Affairs and Child Welfare. Transitioning into the role of Minister of Information and Broadcasting from 2005 to 2010, she continued to lead with determination. In 2010, she took the responsibility of Minister of Environment and Tourism, showcasing her commitment to conservation. Elevated to Foreign Affairs Minister in 2012, she represented the nation globally. Recognized as Deputy Prime Minister in 2015, she continues to inspire, and today she stands as the Vice President of Namibia and the SWAPO presidential candidate. A journey marked by dedication, service, and a vision for a brighter future. Good day, fellow Namibians. My name is Otto Kalangula, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Her Excellency, Vice President of Namibia, Vice President of SWAPO, and SWAPO presidential candidate, Ms. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah. Thank you and welcome.
No, you are welcome.
I just want to understand, and maybe our fellow Namibians also want to understand, what was your inspiration to get into politics in your early livelihood?
My inspiration and motivation to be involved in politics is influenced by so many factors. I can say the whole environment, the whole society around me, from my family at home, and then the community around, and all the political activities, particularly in the north where I was born and grew up, all have been really an inspiration. When I talk about in the home, we are a very big family, and we had one of our brothers who used to go on a contract labor system, where he has to serve for many months. And you noted that when people from the contract comes, or when somebody really, you say, has gone for work, you expect the expectation in the family, particularly the young ones, because he was an elder brother, is so high. But then one realized that when he comes, you have a celebration the day he arrived, because he comes with a packet of sugar, packet of tea, maybe a loaf of bread, and a tin of jam, and that is it. Now, the person has been away for such a long time, and you really expect much. And then now, the political awareness came when you have the founder members of SWAPO. I can specifically talk about Kahumba Kandola, because Ndola and Onamtai, where I was born, are very close. And these founders, the early, those who were very active, they always go around different places. After church services, you go to a rally, they are talking about the struggle, you are colonized and all these things. And as one is growing up also, then you start going to school, you see it yourself, you start to feel it, that no, you cannot. Particularly when we were now introduced, we have what is called the Bantu education, which was specifically for the black child. And then the Europeans, they have their own. And when you go to places like now, when Oshakati, for example, start to develop, you have different tellers for blacks and whites, even when you are in the shop. So all these things tells you, no, there's something wrong here. And I cannot really sit idle while others are struggling. So that is really how I was earlier motivated, to the point that when I went to the boarding school in 1966 is when then I even got my first card for SWAPO.
Okay.
So that is how early I started. And we start now as young people, they are mobilizing one another. And things became easier when there was what was called a Tanga Consultative Congress of SWAPO Party. Tanga is a town in Tanzania.
Okay.
So during that Congress, a decision was taken to form the wings. And that is where also now the SWAPO Youth League was established. So when we were informed, we got the message from the leadership in exile that now in the country we must establish wings. So they told us this now we establish the SWAPO Youth League, the Women's Council, the Elders Council. But for us as young people, we paid attention to our wing. So the SWAPO Youth League became very active. And that is the point when I was then elected by my comrades to be the chairperson of the chairman. That time we just chairman. The gender was not an issue. So we used to call chairman of the SWAPO Youth League in Ovamboland.
Okay.
So that became now my responsibility. And as a chairman, it's your responsibility to keep the team together and also to be in charge of the programs of different activities. There was a year when there was the general worker strike. So the workers and the youth, we then started working together. Particularly the two branches which were more active was the branch in Ovamboland and the branch in Walfish Bay. They were very, very active, so we were linking up as young people. You have people like Ndali Kamati, Namolo, Shali, and Jerry Ekanjo. They were now in Walfish Bay. We were now coordinating, and our operation became very, very successful. So then there was now a time that now that the South Africans, they don't want to listen, we even planned to say that we should allow the lower schools to continue with their studies. By the high schools, particularly in Vamboland, Odibo, Ongwediwa, and Oshigambo, we were the one who were really organizing all this. And then we start having regular rallies taking place at different places until the South African regime decided to arrest people. Now, every time if you have somebody who address a rally, they go after that person. Then we draw up a program for us to say, no, we should really try to be very strategic so that you have a long time to do our mobilization. So there was something like mass arrest and so on, which many of us, including myself, we got arrested. And I remember in my case, when because I was very small, and the body-wise, very small, and when I appeared first time in the court, the lawyer, it was a lawyer from a law firm of Judge Olin. Maybe Namibians read about Judge Olin. So he had a firm here, and he was the one who was asked by SWAPO to be responsible for our case when we were arrested in Novemberland there. So he sent us a young lawyer who came to defend. So when the lawyer came in, then he said, no, this one should not go in, should not be allowed even to appear in court. They said, no, she say she's young, but she's clever. In any case, she's accused number one. In fact, I was accused number N.
Wow.
That is because I was the chairman of the region. And all the invitation that were going out, they go on my signature as the chairman. So that is how I became accused number one.
Is this when you are still in high school or you're doing your education?
High school.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when I was still at high school.
Wow.
In fact, that's when I was doing my Form 3. Yeah, that's when I was doing my Form 3. which we could not finish because during that year, Odibo High School was very active.
Yeah.
To the point that, because most our teachers were mercenary. They came, they are part of the church. Or they came from either UK, America, were sent by the Anglican Church.
Okay.
So when we were very politically very active, all the foreign teachers were expelled, including the bishop. They were all expelled. So when we came to write our final exam in 73, we were on our own. We have just to arrange as students, the one who is good in one subject, you teach others. And that's how we wrote our final exam in 73. You know, our examination used to come from South Africa.
Yes.
So I know I was helping others with math and science because those were my subject. Mathematics and science, those were my best at school.
Okay.
Politics came in, I think, just because of the circumstances. Yes. I should have become maybe a scientist. I don't know.
Yes.
So then after we appeared before the court, finally others started getting out of prison and 5 of us remained there. And later we were sentenced to 3 years suspended. So 3 years suspended means should you be heard or should you be convicted with the same offense, you are no longer going to go to court. You just go straight to prison for those years.
Yeah, you would just be sentenced.
Now, our offense was political activities. There's no way you cannot be involved in political activities.
So how did you and your colleagues and comrades overcome that challenge of them putting that physical barrier, if I can call it that, in a sense, that if you are active in any form or shape, you don't even get to have a trial, you just get sentenced immediately. How did you guys come about to continue your activism, and what were the strategies that you put ahead to get away with being sentenced?
We started having small meetings and motivate others, but that was not really going to be more effective in a way one wants is to be effective. And that's why we decided to go into exile. Okay. So 1974, I know from my school, I was the first person to leave, going into exile. And that day when I left, I could not continue with my studies because I've now finished the Form 3 at Odibo, which was the highest. And the other schools that were in Ovambo, where you can go, is either Oshigambo or Ongwediva. Now, Ongwediva is a government school. Oshigambo is a church school, but different religion. And Odibo was seen as the center of the political activities. So it was not easy for students from Odibo to get places in other high schools. So what happens now, some of us, we start teaching at Odibo as unqualified teacher. So that's why our imprisonment was released in end of 73. And then 74, I was given a teaching post at Odibo. So I was teaching standard 3. And that was the time I then decided, no, I'll just go into exile. And the day I left, I can tell you the story, it was very interesting. But because that day, there was going to be an excursion for the teachers to go to Tumeb during the June holiday. And they were now to go to Ondangwa to prepare their passes. All the teachers. Then for me, I've linked up with some of my colleagues, 4 of my colleagues, that we must find time to leave the country. So now when I heard the teachers were going to be out that day, I just told the principal that I don't feel like wanting to join the team, the excursion in Tsumeb. So therefore, I'm not going to go to Ondangwa to prepare this pass. So I remained, and I was given out to say, fine, since you are the one who's remaining, take care of all the classes. So I said, that is fine. Meanwhile, I've arranged with my colleagues. There were 2 who were coming from Odibo itself. They were students. There was one who was coming from Oshakati, that is, he's still alive, Abasta Ipinge. And then there was Dr. Shaende, he's also still alive. He's a doctor in the military hospital. He was coming from Oshigambo. So I told them, I say, this is the day we must go because the Odibo is going to be quiet and we have to go via Angola, and Odibo is near Angola. So what I did when everybody left, I went to all classes and I tell them, tomorrow you are going to write a test. You should read from this page to this page. Every class I say you must read from this, just to keep the students quiet in classes. I really gave them a lot of work because I say you are going to have a test. And then I went to my room. Meanwhile, I prepared all my June examination papers, the question and answers for my class. And then I left everything on the table. So I left with 5 of us, my 4 boys and myself. So we went into Angola. We went through Angola.
That's quite nice that even that, though you had made the decision to go into exile and further your involvement in the struggle, the liberation struggle, you were still mindful to leave the students there prepared, and also leave them with examination so that their education also doesn't suffer, which I think is a quite nice thing to do.
Yes, service delivery is always on top of everything I do. That's one thing I can assure you. I can even tell you that day, as I was leaving, because I was a teacher and they were my friends who were nurses. Now, nurses that day, they got their salary earlier. Now, one of my friends met me and said, Netumbo, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Oshikango. Oshikango was the sender, the main post office. Then she said, oh, we just got our salary, because we were getting our salary cash. We just got our salary. Can you please have my money and my book to go and deposit it? My goodness, now here I am. I don't want to tell her what is happening. So I took the money and the book. Then I say, what am I going to do now? First, if I take this money and the book, it might give me bad luck. And my idea was not to tell anybody. So then there was now the comrade, now he defected the party, who was the president of the Swap Youth League. I was the chair, he was the president. And he used to work at the hospital. So I went there and I called him. I said, come. We went away, we talked. I said, comrade, as I'm talking to you now, I'm in Zambia. This other comrade gave me her money and her book. Please do me a favor, go to Oshikango, deposit this money, and keep this book for 7 days. Because I believe after 7 days, we have gone a distance. And that's what he did. So I left. That trip is a long one.
Yeah.
That one is long.
Just to summarize your time maybe in Zambia.
Yeah, that's where I just want to go.
Yeah.
So we took our long trip. We took us a month. Then we arrived in Zambia. In Zambia, when we arrived, again, there's a lot of things that happened there. We even went to the Maheba refugee camp. We were kept in a refugee camp. It's a refugee camp in Zambia. Finally, we were brought to Lusaka. There in Lusaka, when I arrived, I was made administrative secretary in the office of the SWAPO Secretary for Administration, Comrade Moses Garwap. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Then, as time went on, that's 74.
Yeah.
I went to, let me bring you back to Namibia. When Dr. Esha came as a special representative of the UN Secretary General to come and see the plight of Namibians, because now the struggle is being intensified. I was one of the leaders who met him, and I made a statement on behalf of the Namibian women to Dr. Esha. That was the first time I saw somebody writing shorthand. I was sitting next to his secretary, and it was just So the thing started here. They were. So then 74, I was part of the SWAPO delegation to the UN General Assembly, September 74. There was for the first time I addressed the decolonization committee on behalf of the Namibian people. So it was really something for me to represent Namibia at such a big international body. Then another responsibility then given to me was to be the deputy chief representative in Lusaka. Very interestingly, the issue of gender comes in. Maybe, you are just a young person, you are fresh coming from home, you are a woman, but then I was appointed as a deputy with no chief representative. But for me, I was just comfortable. I just do my work, and most of the work to do there is to look at the welfare of Namibians as they are arriving into exile. Because after we left, 5 of us, so many people then start coming. There was like an exodus of young Namibians coming into exile. And then Zambia at the time was the provincial headquarters. You see, all the offices we had in exile were called the provincial headquarters because the headquarters is in Windhoek. So my responsibility is to make sure that the people, they are given the food, they are given clothes, and the housing, how it's going to be arranged. And also for those who are coming from the front, wounded, they got their attention, they got the medical attention and so on. There are times that I have to go and receive our people at the border between Namibia and Botswana. I had an experience one day, just as the pontoon, because the crossing was on a boat, a pontoon. As the pontoon was now sailing into the river, then the South African on the other side, from the Caprivi, they just fired. We just say they people were running, lucky enough. I think they were just I don't know, because just as the pontoon was reaching the shore, then we hear the firing. Wow. People were running in different directions. Now I was trying to say, calm down, lay down, and all these things, but we managed. No one was hurt or in whatever. So as a chief representative, that has been my responsibility, working with other departments like education, sorting out those who are going to school, those who are going to the front. So this has been my responsibility in Zambia. Then I was transferred to Dar es Salaam, 1980. Dar es Salaam is the headquarters of the AU Liberation Committee. Now, the AU Liberation Committee is the body that mobilizes war material for liberation movement. And it's now my responsibility as the chief representative, in addition to link our country with the country in East Africa, We are also working with the Liberation Committee, what type of ammunitions are needed, what type of guns are needed. And then when the consignment comes through the port of Dar es Salaam, then working with the AU Liberation Committee, you have a responsibility to make sure that they are transported to Zambia, to Angola. Then because we moved our provincial headquarters from Lusaka to Luanda.
Okay.
So it moved to Luanda. So many of the consignments have to go to Luanda and all this. So it was a very rewarding post, I must say.
Yeah.
I remember when we were having a shortage of uniforms at one point, and all the missions, SWAPO missions, were informed. So I engaged the government of Kenya, and I said that we short of uniforms. So I had to go to Nairobi. I stayed there for a month. We were in the laboratory to design the type of strong uniforms because some samples, what could be the best, looking at the condition in Angola and so on. Finally, we succeeded, and then uniforms were made by one company. It used to be called Manchester. And then when the consignment was over, the president of Kenya, Kenyatta, then gave me a plane and then flew the consignment to Lusaka, to Luanda and back. So that was my last posting. And then from there, I went to school until independence, came back now to independence.
What would you say was during your time in Zambia and also in Kenya?
In Dar es Salaam.
In Dar es Salaam, sorry, in Tanzania. What would you say was a key experience or key experiences that you take away that shaped you for the future and the present?
I was one of the SWAPO negotiation team for the implementation of Resolution 435. And I remember when we went for the pre-implementation talks that took place in Geneva. It was very interesting, where we met the Namibians from home, who were part of the South African delegation, and then our delegation that was led by our president, President Nuyoba. Now, what I have learned there particularly is the art of negotiation. Really, it helped me. And I believe that art of negotiation has motivated me when I was finally sent for further studies, that I decided to do international relations, which ended with my master's degree on diplomacy. So that really helped me. Coming to your question now, you could really see the real solidarity in terms of the host. I'm now referring to the Zambians as well as to Tanzanians. Like in Zambia, we were not known as refugees. They were calling us ma-FF. If you are thinking of it, you think it's not a good word.
Yeah, like it sounds derogatory.
It sounds derogatory.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
My freedom fighter.
Oh, okay.
You see?
I like it actually.
Yes, because it's their language, which start with ma. The. In their language, the is ma. So they just know us as ma-FF, the freedom fighters, the freedom fighters. And then you come to Tanzania, you are only known as Ndugu, which means comrade. So that solidarity, that welcoming, that makes them to feel they are part of the struggle. And the service that you were getting, it was always a red carpet. When they see the freedom fighters, they were really giving us a special attention. And that has really shaped me on how you should deal with the people and how you should provide the service to the people around you. So that is one thing really that I appreciate. Like in Tanzania, the Namibian Day is from 66, when on Kulumbashi there was this crash between the South African and SWAPO.
Yes.
And all the 5 years I've been in Tanzania as a chief representative, every year on the 26th, we have a celebration. And the Nyerere, the president, make it a point to be the main speaker. So that really, it tells you the caring of a person and what it means to be
the camaraderie
there and so on.
Yeah.
So those is really, and we were really well received. We were just at home, and that helps a lot.
Would you say that was one of the key factors in the support from our fellow African nations? And if there are any others, is there any other key factors that, in your experience, you might have come across that we might not know, or you feel like you need to highlight during the struggle?
Yeah, the other one is the teamwork. When the Southern African countries put up what was called the frontline state in Nigeria, Nigeria very far there, also joined. And that was a body that was to provide advice and concrete support to the liberation struggle in Southern Africa. And it has worked very well. At the UN, they really became a force. And the African group at the United Nations also became a very strong force in terms of fighting for liberation. During our struggle, there were very few countries, maybe two, I will not mention, who did not very much fully participated. There's even a country that, because the AU Liberation Committee, it was getting money from AU member states. And that was the money they were using to buy arms and hardware required by liberation movement. And every African country, they were making annual contribution. So that solidarity, that teamwork helps a lot. And of course, in Europe, there was quite a number of solidarity groups with the people of Namibia, with the people of South Africa, with the people of Mozambique. They were just aligning themselves to specific countries. So this is another thing. And you have now, like the socialist countries, the Soviet Union mostly has been very fundamental. Then you have Cuba, who finally came in even physically with the Cuban army. And that's why I think Namibians, they should not forget Cuba at all. That country has really sacrificed for this country to be independent. Our relationship is linked with blood. So that is very, very important. You know, SWAPO's basic principle is solidarity, freedom, and justice. And when I look at all what these countries have been doing for us, that reinforces my belief in these three SWAPO basic principles. And every time, up to now, I believe in the future, they will be my guiding principle. In everything I do, I must think of solidarity, which means sharing. Don't think of a job, think of a service, in the sense that your mind is freed so that you do what is right. So that is what really the freedom in the context of the SWAPO basic principle. And for me, those who continue to be my guiding principle. And that's why even when Namibia got independence, and then I'm given different responsibility, everything I think what I'm doing, what impact would it make in the life of a Namibian person? What impact does it make in the life of a world citizen? So that's why, as a deputy minister of foreign affairs, when Namibia was elected to the Security Council, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, then Comrade Theo Ben Gurirab, may he so rest in eternal peace, he asked me, Netumbo, we are now elected into the Security Council. What do you think we should take there? Immediately what came into my mind, I know where I came from. We are coming from a bitter struggle. And I know the importance of peace. And I have also read how women suffer during conflict. So I say, let us discuss the issue of women and peace. We introduced that. It was not easy because other members of the Security Council were saying that's not a security issue, it's a social issue. It must go to ECOSOC. ECOSOC is one of the bodies in the UN where social issues are discussed. He came back and said, no, we have to make a motivation. That cannot be a social issue. It's a serious security issue. So finally it was agreed, it was debated, and then Resolution 1325 was adopted. And when that resolution was adopted, then the Secretary General of the UN started now calling for its implementation, people to go and assess. Because my position was, in conflict, women should not only be seen as victims, they should also be seen as peacemaker, so that they can contribute to peace building. So today, that is one of the highly commended resolution in the UN. And I feel I have really contributed to humankind. If you go to the UN now, they nickname it. They nickname me grandmother for Resolution 1325. So I did my contribution to the world peace. And that's why even here in Namibia, I have established as a Minister of International Relations an International Women Peace Center. And that International Women Peace Center is to look into how we can really ensure peace and stability in Namibia and internationally. So people are to be trained there at that center on mediation, peace building, and even when we have to take our contingent to participate in UN peacekeeping, before they go, we orientate them. We even have a plan to say we also orientate their families, because some families are very young. When you have a member of your family going on a UN peace mission, it's a big sacrifice. And you need to understand why this person is doing that. So as I'm telling you, everything I do, I'm thinking of a next person. So that center is there. It's to save Namibian, it saves the international community. And I'm happy we are linking it to so many similar centers in the world. So this is my achievement as a Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, advising my minister, among many other administrative issues. Then, now I became a Minister of Women Affairs and Child Welfare. Of course, my main focus is women emancipation, sensitize the Namibian nation to understand the importance of equality between men and women, and I'm convinced I have done my job.
I just want to ask you that regarding the women welfare. I just wanted to ask, what do you think were the challenge before you took over the ministry? And how did you address some of those challenges? And what do you think were the achievements that you left the ministry?
First, I wouldn't really call them a challenge, but I must say the traditions and the cultures that created a big gap in terms of recognizing one's value in the society in as far as men and women are concerned was so big. And it was both men and women, we were at the same level. We were like, that is a man's job, that is a woman's job. And as a man, you see yourself as more superior. And me as a woman, I see myself as I'm down there. And when it comes now to real development, such an attitude has a serious negative impact. And that has been my agenda as a Minister of Women Affairs and, of course, Child Welfare, to make the Namibian population to understand that us being men and women does not make us to think of who is superior and who is not superior, but to think that we are all human beings and we need one another. We know about our biological responsibility. As a woman, my biological responsibility is to carry a baby and to bring that life to earth. And I'm so proud of it. Because it's something that you as a man, you cannot share with me. It's my strength. I can make it my strength. It cannot be seen as a weakness. And the same with the boy child. The thing that you are there, you may have that physical power. It's your strength, but not a strength to be exercised against another person. To see ourselves that women and men, they can do the same work in the interest of the public. So if you are, there's no difference when you are a minister being a man or a minister being a woman. Now, why do I say now I have succeeded? I am sure the attitude towards equality between men and women have changed in Namibia. You are finding a certain level of respect. And you, even when you are working as a woman, and you have that authority of the office. And even the men who are working in that office, they accept that authority of a minister, of a director, of a ED. They don't look at you as you're a woman. They are looking at the office that you are having. So that is why, in fact, at Namibia's independence, they were not even women in the management cadre, be black or white. By today, they are there. In the banking institutions, I remember one of the banks as a minister, they sent me their annual report. I look at the management, it was 100% men. I wrote them a letter acknowledging the report. I thank it, but then I say, please next time change. Your management must have a balance. Today, they have changed. Our parliament today is 50-50 women. And this is because the SWAPO party has adopted this zebra list. So I worked on that one. No one can take that away from me. I know it was Married Person Equality Act, which I remember when it was passed, I got a job before my husband as a deputy minister. And I had only one child then. So I had to apply for my medical aid to the Minister of Finance. Then the report came to say it's only me and my son who can be on my medical aid because my husband cannot go in because I'm not the head of the household. Because that was how the law was.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
That only a man who can be a head of the household. And according to the law we found here, a woman cannot have dependence. So then they refused to put my husband in the medical aid. I wrote a letter to Minister Herigol, may his soul rest in eternal peace. I really went to the dictionary and explained what does the dictionary say about a head of household. It says, I still remember that, a person who's working to earn a salary and sustain a family. I say, I'm the one who's working, I'm earning a salary, I'm sustaining my family, so I'm a head of household. So therefore, put my husband in the medical aid. How can I be in the house? I'm in the medical aid, my husband is not. That issue became a cabinet discussion. Today, thanks to Netumbo, women can have their husbands in their medical aid on one condition, and that one I agree when we were discussing, because you also don't want the government to be exploited.
Yes.
You might have a civil servant married by a chief executive officer of a big company, and then to save their money in their company, they'll put the family on the government medical aid. So now it's made conditional that the medical aid should go into the name of the one having the highest salary. But at least that one I agree.
Yeah.
You have to be having a balance. So Namibian women, Namibians must know that change has come because Netumbo complained and then fought for it as part of gender equality between men and women. This is what I can say among many other things. When it comes to the children, because I told you whenever I'm in the office, I'm looking at the service. At the time of Namibia's independence, there were quite a number of white pre-primary schools. But when we got independence, it became difficult because we cannot have them for only whites, but it should be countrywide. But since the country is big, we just started at grade 1. That's where the government take over. So as a minister of women affairs, my first statement, I said I will do my best not to leave this ministry before we introduce pre-primary back into the whole system. That time, Komen Nahas was the Minister of Education, and I know he was making a study on the reform of the education. So I had a discussion with him and say, let us also see how we can introduce pre-primary back. Today, we have grade 0. That is the reality. I thought of it, and today we have grade 0. There were some children who were getting grants, very few. And that time, we had a challenge of orphans and vulnerable children. As a minister, I took a month and I think a week. First, I mobilized resources. UNICEF gave me the money. I went to NBC. I said, please give me a film crew to travel with me all over Namibia. I went to all 13 regions. That time there were only 13 regions. And I visited every constituency and visited every house which was headed by a child. I was with a camera and a reporter for that full month and a week. Then we see how the children who were orphaned by HIV/AIDS and others were living. I brought that film here at the cabinet. We saw it. And I say, I'm saying this to convince ourselves that we must expand the children grant to allow all the children who meet that criteria to benefit. Today, it's there. Everybody knows it. Where I go, I make sure I'm on the service of the people. No one can deny that children are not getting grants. I even then, to keep the children and to have some empowerment, started to build community centers, starting with Ntsunkwe one in Kirkfeld here, one in Okongo. So I think 4 others. And the idea is to have community centers, which finally now I realize even the Ministry of Health is doing, youth is doing so. So it's one government we have to combine.
Of course.
But that is one thing I can be proudly say, because I look at the need of the people. We have to build those centers. Then I become Minister for Information. Many other things also happen. I introduced the government bulletin, news bulletin. It was not there, but I introduced it. I also then was attracted by soapies. And I say, why should we always show foreign soapies in the Namibian TVs? So we should develop our own soapie. So we started. I don't know if any of you have had a soapie called The Tie That Brands. Yeah, that is another thing that I have to say must be introduced.
Yeah, which is good also, because it gives the opportunity to create an industry.
Yes.
And also promote a film industry, which also promotes jobs and self-delivery and participation of Namibian people, rather than just exporting all those things. So I think that's really fantastic.
Say that again, because my idea as a Minister of Information was to build the whole creative industry. And one time I went to Egypt. I visited their film city. Oh, I came back impressed. But I still feel that as we are moving, we might have a film city in Namibia, especially the south. It's very well positioned to have something like that. It's a dream. We can talk about it. Somebody can pick it up, but it's something that can happen in Namibia. But unfortunately, my soapie just played a few series. I don't know what happened. I left the ministry. But it was very popular. Those who watched it, it was... And how I came, there was this film which was popular here by the Italian or Spanish, Tequila. That film, somebody drink a tequila. Then that artist came to visit us here. The person does not even say good morning. He was just speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
It's when I came to say, no, we should have our own soapies. So everywhere I go, I think of saving. Then information again. Tungwe, we know that that's where the mostly inhabited by our San community. And they never had their language spoken on the radio. Then I say, I also had developed community radios as a Minister of Information. There was one in Caitmans, one in Hobabes. The one in Enana was put up by UNESCO. But then we opened NBC station in Tungwe. And I went there, I inaugurated, because I said, no, we cannot really allow the people there not to hear their language coming from the radio. So these are some of the things when you say
promoting
inclusivity,
community,
culture, and so on, accommodating. So that is now when information. There are many other things. Environment really, it's one of the best ministry for me, for the ministries which I served. Now, when I went to that ministry, my first approach was to understand the state-owned enterprise that were administrated under that ministry. That is the Namibia Tourism Board, the NWR, the one which is running lodges, and then the tourism sector. I read all those laws very well. Then I came now to international because of the conventions and because of the Namibian Constitution on the protection of environment So I familiarized myself with the Convention on Climate Change, Convention on Biodiversity, and Convention on Desertification. And then the loss of the Paris title. And the thing became so interesting, became so good, and I was enjoying it. One thing, when it comes to tourism, I found that the private sector and the government, they didn't have a strong connection. The connection was there, but I had just to strengthen it. And why do I say that? Is because the private sector, they used to have annual tourism expo, excluding the government. I called them, I said, no, that cannot be. We must have it jointly, government and the private sector. Today, as we are here, the tourism expo is one of the best and attracts so many people. And when we did that, our tourism industry, the arrival just shot up. So that is why I say, because I say the people must really benefit from this. It's a sector that cannot be managed. Private, the regulator, which is the government, is not talking to the operators. We must have a strong link. So now it has developed our industry. Then conservancies. I have really introduced or allocated quite a number of conservancies in Namibia. The reason is conservancies is a program whereby the government land, you allow the community to use it. You are conserving the biodiversity, particularly the animals, and of course the plants too. So you give them an area and say you have a concession here. Then you facilitate for them to get an operator. A lodge can be built up and the community will have a share. The one brings money have a share. And that has helped so many communities. I remember there were even communities where the conservancies were just paying for the school development fund. They just go into their conservancy, how many children go to school here, to which school, and then the conservancy pays everything. And through the trophy hunting, the community really benefited and they continue to benefit. So that is one of the things that I'm proud of, that I have really assisted so many people through that program. Again, in the environment, I found the Environmental Management Act. It was not operationalized. When I read, then I say, no, this has to be operationalized. It was operationalized, and through that, I then established the Environmental Management Fund. Today, that fund is in millions if it has not reached $1 billion. And when you hear the Ministry of Environment supporting community project here, water here and here, that is Netumbo established funds. I know when I was appointing the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Libanda, he was very young. That fund is too big. How can you give it to a young person? I say he will manage it. I will be there to guide him, and I'm so proud of what he did. To the point that currently the Namibian Environmental Fund is a fund that is accredited with the Green Climate Fund. And the countries that want to access the Green Climate Fund, particularly in the region, they could be referred to the Namibia Environmental Management Fund to be helped on how they can access money from the Green Climate Fund. So all these are my initiative. I say I always think of the people. And if I have to go back, maybe you can talk about the Beijing Platform of Action. You remember the Beijing Conference?
Yes.
The Beijing Conference, I was the chief negotiator for the African group. of that Beijing conference. And I could know almost word by word what is needed there. At one point, we stuck on the issue of gender. What is gender and so on? It was given to Namibia to chair a committee in order to solve the problem under my leadership. And when the conference took place, I was the rapporteur general of the conference. And there, because, when you are a small country like Namibia, you must push yourself for your country to be up there.
No, 100%.
So, and that is why Namibia is a highly respected internationally. And again, as a Minister of Environment and Tourism, we were discussing this genetical resources. Genetical resources is like our plants when they made medicinal and so on. So the developing countries, they just come in, take these plants, they do their medicine, and we don't benefit anything. So now, in accordance to the UN Convention on Biodiversity, we then develop the Nagoya, the protocol on genetical resources, which will now dictate that if a country make a resources from a specific country, a specific community, that community should have permanent benefit from whatever is coming there. And that is that instrument which I was the chief negotiator for the African group when we were negotiating that instrument.
That benefit, is it in terms of royalties or is it in terms of value addition?
Loyalty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, loyalty. And in Namibia, the Minister of Environment really become high up there. And it has to be like that.
100%.
Because everything we do is on the environment.
Exactly.
Our houses, our fields, where we walk, the air we breathe, everything is environment. So to me, that's a very serious ministry. And with climate change now, it can really be a tool for the government to have benefit in terms of supporting environmental program through that environmental management fund. So then I come now to the Ministry of International Relations. I think this one, Namibia has been very and continue to be highly respected. I remember like at SADC level, SADC, you have SADC and you have SADC organ on defense and politics. And countries can only serve for 1 year. It's a rotational. But when Namibia became a chair of the organ during the time of President Pohamba, and I was a Minister of Foreign Affairs, we were chair during the big program in Madagascar. I literally have to relocate and lived in Madagascar just to manage the situation on behalf of SADC. And after our term came to an end, the SADC felt that let Namibia continue. I think we are the one who have a record having served as chair of the organ 3 years consecutive. And I was the one chairing. So these are some of that is my international input in as far as Namibia is concerned. So this is now at the Minister of in Foreign Affairs and International Relations. And those are the programs that I can talk about. The things are many.
Yeah, no, of course. No, of course. And I just want to highlight on what do you think is Namibia's role going in the future within the region, in a regional aspect and on the international community? Where do you see our place being? How can we sort of elevate further regionally and also internationally? What can we do to become more of a bigger role player?
Yeah, first of all, The focus now is on economic diplomacy. Africa as a continent, we have gained our political independence. Of course, we know that Western Sahara is still struggling, but that is an internal issue. Internal issue in the sense that Western Sahara is not under foreign occupation. It's an issue between Western Sahara and Morocco. So therefore, the economic diplomacy is the way forward now. At the time of our independence, we got our independence when the Cold War was coming to an end. As Africa, we have agreed on our instrument, which is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is requiring Africans to trade among themselves. And that's why we have to seriously start implementing some of our critical decisions. For example, in SADC, for a long time, we have been talking about value chain. And value chain is very, very important because you will not make one country or some countries to be dumping places for finished product, but rather you have to stretch it so that through that value chain, every country will have a portion to add, because in so doing, you are creating jobs in all the countries that will be benefiting from that product. And Africa, one point, has also taken a decision to say that at least to start with, 15 or 20% of Africa raw material should not leave the continent unprocessed. So that's now the issue of value addition. Where I'm seeing now really, if Africa can take its decisions and implement them to the latter, we will be able to fit well in this changing world, which is like moving again to another cycle of a Cold War. It will be focusing on economic. It is not going to be the colonization that we know, but it will be a mental colonization. It will be an real economic colonization that we must try to mitigate one way or the other. A country like Namibia, we accept that our biggest challenge, if we call it a challenge, our biggest problem is the issue of unemployment. And it's not only unique to Namibia. You go to other African countries, it's the same thing. Because why African young people have to rescue their lives on high sea trying to go to Europe? They are basically following their job that we are transporting when we are sending the African raw material to Europe unprocessed. So we need really to work together. And under Agenda 2063, which is Africa's developmental map or mechanism, there is quite a number of demand of economic cooperation among African countries. Now, if we have to take that serious, definitely the Africans will be able to take care of themselves. And it has to start with individual country. If every country say, I abandon my all activities, I will link all my activities to the Africa Agenda 2063, we'll be able to make good progress. So that is why this year, our theme for election, and that is not just really a mere theme, it's a clear vision. And it has to be a guiding thing based on our basic principles of solidarity, freedom, and justice. Our theme, which is unity in diversity. You cannot do anything if you are not united. And that's why at the country level, at the sub-regional level, at the continental level, we need to be united. So our theme is more local, that we talk about unity in diversity, natural resources benefication. We have to add the value to our natural resources, whether in the land or in the sea. Like now we have the oil and gas which are discovered. We have really two. And then you say youth empowerment. Our focus is to empower our young people. And when we talk about empowering the young people, not just to create jobs for them, but to make them, they should be the job creators. So we must just create an environment for them to be more innovative and then to be in charge of their own natural resources. These natural resources are ours. I don't know why some people want to make a debate. They belong to Namibians. But we know we might not have a money to invest. But if you don't have the money, it does not mean this thing does not belong to you. You have to take advantage of you having that critical resources and see how you can balance with the one who's bringing in the money. So he cannot do anything if my resource is not there. So this is what should be the attitude in the whole continent if we have to make progress. So natural resources benefication for youth empowerment and sustainable development. Unless really we make use of our resources, we will not bring about prosperity, which will mean sustainable development. So that is really where I'm seeing Africa. Currently, resources are being discovered. I don't even want to believe they are discovered. They knew. They are just now saying it's here because they wanted them. And we should really be strong enough, not just allow them to come and take.
And united.
We must be united. And our young people, they must really be alert. I know that our young people, they are hungry, they are frustrated, they are desperate, they are starting to lose trust in their governments, and that can be very dangerous for them just to be taken out, to be carried away, and by the time they realize they are in forever. So that is really, and that's why I believe on intergenerational. And that's why I believe on engagement between generations so that we can live in harmony and make sure that we sustain our future. So I'm seeing Africa, if we are not united, if we are not doing the same things that what we are saying, we will end up to be back under colonial occupation in a different way. And we have to be careful also with the communication technology, the social media. It can easily
false information,
yes,
manipulation,
mental manipulation can be there. It's really, it's so sad. I said I'm not anti technology, but I'm afraid if we did not handle it properly, it can be used to manipulation and then mental colonization, which would then make us to suffer more and forever, because you can't pinpoint that these are occupying my territory.
Exactly.
Like how it was easy for us to identify our colonizer, and then the whole world has to come to our support.
If you have any advice for young people and future leaders of this nation, what would it be? And what would you say to the young Namibian like myself and so many others that are in the country?
You see, one time I went to China, and everywhere you go, the Chinese are just like telling you the same thing. Then I say, how did you manage this? And then they say, for us, we are very cultural. And the terms which are used by our forefathers, they remain very strong to us. Now, if, for example, you know that we say, I hearken now. Now I don't know these terms in English. You are the own protector of what you are having. So our young people, they have to see them in that context. And then they say, your mother is just your mother. So, which means your country is just your country. And whatever problem in this country cannot be solved by outsiders. We have to solve it ourselves. And our young people, they really need to have trust in the systems which are there, and for them to be open for saying out where corrections should be made. And it's very important to do it in a way that you want to be understood, and not a way of want to score points. Yeah, you know, there are two different ways. If you want to, you can win a debate, but you have not won. You did not solve the problem.
Yeah. There's constructive criticism, and then there's just
so
destructive
you can win a debate.
Yeah.
Debate are fine. You can win it because you know how to articulate, you know how to talk. But you will not solve the hunger that people are having there. You may just perpetuate it. You just perpetuate it. Like now, when one says the SWAP government has not done anything, are you really serious to say we have not done anything? If you compare over 100 years, some are saying the colonizers were better. This country has been colonized for 100 years. And talk about education. At the time of our independence, only 6% of Namibians have access to education. Sub 1, sub B. Today we are talking about 98%. They have access to education. At the time of our independence, our health facilities here were just like maybe 200 or what. Today they are over 500. Our schools were just like 1,000. Today they are over 2,000. And still you think, we know that now that many people have access to education, we must concentrate on quality. That's where we should concentrate. And it does not really help that you want every time to start. And that is one thing that Africa has suffered. That when you have one administration is coming, then they feel others have not done anything. They think they are starting, they will not do anything. You must build on what is there. It's only then you can move.
The foundation.
The foundation. Africa is now locked into this thing of democracy. Look at America, how many political parties?
2.
And in Africa, you go to one African country, 60 political parties. A country small like Namibia, maybe 16, 20 political parties. We must really, as young people, you must calm down, analyze the situation, and see where you want your country to be. These things which are coming, the more political party, the better. Why it's not better for America? Why it's better for us?
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. That's what is happening. And they disrupt what is happening. You say,
so that we lose focus on what is truly happening, and we're
Yes.
busy focusing on things that are inconsequential to our future.
Say that again.
So I think it's very important that people do understand what you are saying in terms of unity, and also like being constructive in our criticism, and also understanding that the process takes time to also build. Like you rightfully mentioned that education, healthcare, it has all improved since our time of independence.
Even electricity services,
Even electricity,
potable water.
yeah, exactly. We have the literacy rate of the country has gone up significantly. Access to healthcare, access to education, access to services has gone up significantly. And I think what you touch on there is very correct. And we must not lose sight of the direction that we are going, and not break the foundations that you and the SWAPO party and the comrades past and present have set for us as young people.
So we need just to build on what we have done. And what I say is just example. Look at road infrastructures. How much we spend and how much we are spending. And with the new industries like oil and gas discovered, we must be careful. Africa has a history that countries with critical resources, they are put in conflict, which never come to an end. Look at DRC. Look at Cabo Delgado in Mozambique. So if we are not careful, people are trying to find a way how that could happen in Namibia. But for us who know why we fought for this country, it cannot happen under our watch. But the final decision is on the Namibian hands. So with our democracy.
What would you say to Namibians? What can they expect under your leadership and administration, should you be elected?
What Namibians should expect? First, for me, I'm saying I must lead a united nation. I must lead a nation with integrity, a nation that cares for one another. And I must lead a nation that believes in service delivery, quality service delivery. Because with all this self-advancement, and if we put all this together, we will definitely be able to effectively and efficiently manage our economy, particularly our main economic sectors, to make them more productive and to be on the service of the people. I'm now referring here to sectors such as agriculture, mining, including the extractive, be it in the sea or on land. I'm talking about the fishery. I'm talking about tourism. I'm talking about sports, very, very important. And I'm talking about creative industry. So if we can really, with those principles I mentioned, and focus in these sectors, they will, of course, they have their enablers, like energy. Maybe I can start with water. Water is life. We must make sure that the water is accessible and affordable to the Namibian people. The same should apply to energy. And we have also to look at our education. We say now we have access, but we have to make sure that quality education, and by quality education, you need to improve on infrastructure. Overcrowded classes are a big problem. We all know that. The teaching aid equipments will be really something we have to look at seriously. The parents have to play a big role to maintain discipline in schools. The teachers need to strengthen their capacities. And then another one, you need a healthy nation. So that's why our health sector, the universal health coverage law has to be implemented. I know the program is started recently, but it must be implemented fully. Currently, we know there's also issue of shortage of medicine in hospital. These things have to be addressed. Recently, when I had a chance to open one of our special courts, which is a court specifically for our environmental court, particularly biodiversity, I also felt that there is a need to have a special court to deal with procurement, public procurement contestation, so that it does not take too long to be solved immediately and not to let people suffer. And housing is a challenge, but I believe if we grow our economy and people are employed and they are gaining a salary, they will be able to take care of their houses, of their housing. And the private sector can also jump in by the real estate. They can now start to build houses, looking in different pockets. So these are really the things that we have to look at. By to close it up is just to say I'm seeing a prosperous Namibia. All the elements we require to build that are there. We just need mind change and how we are related to one another. And really to have our people at heart rather than our individuals' needs. We can be served as part of the nation. And for whoever will be given a responsibility, people must take responsibility to serve and not a job to get a salary. Definitely you have to be appreciated, but be at the service of the people. So that is really the type of administration I'm looking at. And as I said earlier, this is exactly what SWAPO stood for from day one when that party organization was formed. And that's why we are still talking about solidarity, freedom, and justice. So I'll just be standing on those principles in order to make sure that we care one another, we relate to one another in a manner that is very respectful, and justice should be our norm as a nation.